Hey guys, what's up? It's Finch here. Today we're going to be discussing the OU tiering survey for the month of July. We just put one of these bad boys out. I made it earlier in the week and put it out. I wanted to get the player basis thoughts on the current metagame. So far, while I don't have the complete results, as this only came out about a day ago, and we're giving people 5 days to fill these out, I will say the results have been pretty favorable. A lot of people enjoying the metagame, so I'm excited to see what the final tallies are, and I'll be sure to report back on that, likely make a video on that as well. But in the meantime, I'm going to share my thoughts and also implore you guys to do the same with your own thoughts. Sorry about that. Just lost the volume. Anyway, so the TLDR, the summary of this is that regularly conducted surveys every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, whatever it may be. We have a survey of players to see how they feel about the metagame. So there are some questions on it. We're going to go through those questions one by one. That's going to be the whole premise of the video. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, then too bad you're watching. No, I'm kidding. You could watch whatever you like, of course. But thank you so much for watching. Alrighty. What is your Smilegon forum name? I am Finchinator, also known as Finchinator, also known as Finch. I'm gonna go with Finchinator though. It's just how it is. So no big dealio there. Anyway, now on to the real questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you enjoy playing the current metagame? C, do you enjoy playing it? Well, yeah. That was not I misread the first part of the question. Sorry. On a scale of how much do you enjoy the current metagame? C, do you enjoy playing it? Yeah, there we go. Alright, so for this, I actually quite like this metagame. I feel that there's a lot of room for various archetypes. I've been using a lot of hyper offense and bulky offense lately. You couldn't really use bulky offense earlier on in the metagame. Balance maybe taking a bit of a hit lately. You don't really see as many balancing, but they're still viable. And I mean, stall is really niche right now. I wouldn't advise using it, but it still is viable just because a lot of people don't know how to beat it or play against it. So you could win games just off of that. So I think we're at the closest point of the metagame being, consistent. It's also the most offensive. The average turns per game has gone down pretty significantly over the last month or two, which is pretty impressive. Honestly, over the last 6 months, ever since DLC drops, in all honesty. But yeah, I feel we're in a pretty damn good spot in the metagame right now, and I'm curious to see how things will continue to go. All in all, I have a feeling that we're probably going to get a little bit more balanced over time, as in more balanced teams, but also, we're going to see more of a balanced, usage mix, as in right now we see a lot more offense and bulky teams. I think that's going to kind of even out, and I think that's fine. I think overall we're in a pretty good place in the metagame, so I'm excited to see how that is going to, shift with time, or potentially go more in this direction with time, depending on how things go, of course. That's not how I think it's going to happen, but, I mean, crazier things have happened, So, yeah, that was kind of weird, loop talk, but you know what I mean? I think the metagame is pretty good, but not great. I think we see a little more offense than balance, but I think we might see a bit more balance moving forward, so it's still all fine in my book. As long as we don't see, a ton of stall or just hyper offense, we're in a pretty good spot. See, I put this as an 8 out of 10. I think I was closer to 7 than 9, just because 9 is really, an exemplary perfect metagame. I'd only give a 9 to maybe 1 or 2 metagames in the history of competitive Pokemon, but that's neither here nor there. Alright, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good do you find the current metagame? Do you find it competitive? Now, this is a bit of a question in a different vein than the prior, as it's trying to see how competitive you find it. So, I can enjoy a metagame, but it's kind of cheesy, not competitive. The better player doesn't always win. This is kind of asking, how often do you think the better player wins these games, How much of an issue is matchup in the current metagame? And I don't think it's as bad as it once was, but I think it's still prevalent. I think we have things in the metagame like King's Rock Cloister, and Overused teams that can, stack really matchup-oriented win conditions. We have some Pokemon that are hard to cover, that make it limited, that we might want to look into. All in all, that makes me kind of lean away from the 8 or 9s I was looking at before, and maybe back to 6 or 7. Ultimately, when I filled this out, and I did already fill it out, so I'm kind of rehashing those points, I gave this a 7. I was close to a 6 out of 8, though, I will say. All in all, I say this metagame really is a 7 out of 10. There's some metagames with serious matchup issues that detract from the gameplay on a consistent basis. This is not one of those. That could have arguably been the case earlier this generation, which case should be more of a 4 or 5 in my eyes. Or if it was outright unplayable, maybe 2 or 3 like it was immediately post-release when just games are crazy, but all in all, things are pretty good so far. We've removed a lot of the problematic and broken elements. There is still some progress to make, but I feel as if everyone's always a skeptic or a critic just because they don't get every single last thing on their little wish list. And look, I'm there too. I mean, we'll get to that in a minute, but overall, I think we're pretty good. I think we've made all of the obvious clear choices the right way. I'm really happy with that, but I do think there are still a couple more stepping stones where we get closer to an 8 or a 9 or even a 10 moving forward. So let's hopefully work towards that. Would you support a ban of King's Rock and SSOU? Yes, absolutely, 100% wholeheartedly, without a doubt. And it's funny because I was reading the response to this one, and I feel like a lot of the tour players, the high ladder players, the guys who qualified for things like OLT and Smilegon Tour, have almost unanimously voted yes. And then it's kind of a split 50-50 among more casual lower ladder players, and that's fine. Neither group is better than the other per se. But I will say that I think this is a conceptual question that kind of goes past a couple people's heads, in that a lot of people's instinct is like, well, if you ban King's Rock, then don't you have to ban all other hacks? And that's just, with all due respect, a really uninformed and arguably ignorant opinion there. See, King's Rock you can differentiate. Let's talk about Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is a very standard move, right? Anyone can use Thunderbolt on their electric type Pokemon, or Pokemon that gets it as, a TM in the game, it's coverage move, whatever it may be. I can use Thunderbolt on my Tapu Koko every single game, and that is not a problem. And we would never ban that, and we would never ban Tapu Koko as it stands. It's not a problematic Pokemon. However, Thunderbolt has a chance to critical hit. Thunderbolt has a chance to paralyze someone. Those are two forms of hacks in which it is unlikely, and it's not the main intention necessarily of the move to get those things, but it's something that you have to be cognizant of, not only when using it, but also when playing against it, in that it can happen, and it very well may happen at any given point in time. So, King's Rock also gives you a chance to flinch whenever you use a move, be it with 1 hit or with 5 hits if you want to scale that chance up, with things like Skill and Cloyster. So, that also gives you a chance to attack. So, how can one differentiate the two if they're both, chances of RNG? Are we just suddenly going to eliminate RNG from the game? That would basically make Pokemon chess. That wouldn't actually be Pokemon. That would be really bastardized. So, how do you figure? Well, you figure as in, you are making an active choice to use Thunderbolt in your Tapu Koko. You're making an active choice to use King's Rock in your Cloyster. However, Thunderbolt has some other redeeming and noteworthy qualities. It provides a stab damage-inducing move that hits something super effectively and neutrally, and it can lead towards making more progress towards winning a game. Let's look at King's Rock. Does it bolster damage output? Not directly. It may give you more opportunities to do damage, but not directly. Does it bolster defensive, abilities, such as another move that, let's say I use Iron Defense on my Corviknight. That bolsters my defense. Does it do that? No, not at all. Okay, now let's look at other items. If I would use Life Orb would boost my damage, but it wouldn't incur anything else. Or if I were to use Leftovers, that would increase my survivability, but it wouldn't do anything else. King's Rock is an item that does not have that same linear progression, in that it gives you a chance to boost both your offenses and defenses, as in King's Rock gives you a chance so that your opponent can't hit you, which gives you better survivability, and it gives you a chance you have more opportunities to do damage because you flinch them, therefore you get to attack again. But that's the only thing it comes with. It's only a chance-oriented item. It's solely random number generated. It is an item that you can look at it one way or another way, but the fact of the matter is, the only thing it can do is give you X chance to flinch the opponent, therefore giving yourself more chance. It is sheer RNG. It doesn't give you that linear, clear, predictable thing you can play around like Leftovers. You know your opponent is getting 6.25% each turn. You can account for that in your damage calculations, in your strategy. You know Life Orb is going to take 10% of your health, providing your survivability, but it's going to increase your damage output by so much so that you can play around that as the opponent or play for that as the player with the Pokemon that has Life Orb. You know Heavy Duty Boots is going to make it so you're not taking hazard damage each time. You can play around that, and you can play with it. But King's Rock, you can't consistently play around. You can maximize your odds to a certain degree, but the fact of the matter is, King's Rock is solely based off of random number generator chance, RNG chance, if you will. You can argue, okay, but how about things like Scald and Focus Blast? Those moves are heavily RNG oriented. You really would only use Scald over Surf if you wanted to get a burn. And yeah, that is true, but Scald still has a secondary, additional characteristic. It's not just like a burn move. It's not going to 100% burn. It's only 30% chance burn, but also it does still do a lot of damage, and a Pokemon that use it are largely using it as a stab attack. Burn is the secondary, not the primary and only. And King's Rock can differentiate itself because the only thing it has any business doing is increasing chances of RNG. Now you might be saying, okay, how do you differentiate it from something like Serene Grace? Well, that's a very valid question. I think Serene Grace and maybe Sandvale and Snowcloak, although I'm personally fine banning Sandvale and Snowcloak because they're uncompetitive, but unfortunately just not a hot topic quite yet. Make it one, talk about it in your posts and your videos and whatever you do if you're listening to this. But let's talk about that for a second here. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so Serene Grace, the thing about it is something that you need to use on Jirachi. There's no other ability gets, and it's the only ability that doesn't potentially not focus on RNG for Togekiss. Like the thing on Togekiss is you could use Hustle, but then you have a chance of missing. You use Super Luck, but then there's a chance of crit. It's all in the same boat. Like, the fact of the matter is, Serene Grace is something that you don't really have the choice to use in those capacities. Whereas King's Rock, you actively have the choice to use, what we're doing and what we'd be doing in banning King's Rock is we'd be removing that choice and making the game focus on more the better player wins rather than the sole RNG element wins. So that's how you can differentiate King's Rock from any other RNG, and then King's Rock from some specific other RNG things. Admittedly, the line there is a bit thinner. I can totally understand why someone would want to ban Sandveil and Snowcloak because you're actually choosing to make those decisions, although some Pokemon have that fall into the same boat as Searing Grace, but neither here nor there. Right now, when it comes to King's Rock, it's pretty clear to me that it's unique. You could justify banning it, and it's also very clear it doesn't make the metagame better in any capacity. Clearly, start flinching teams out is just sheer chance, and it's not an actually like strategy that really garners much skill. You can maximize your odds, which is a skill, but at the end of the day, it's still going to come down to that, and so many games have been decided by that. So much has been really done wrong, and I believe it's best to get that out of the metagame. So that's my kind of little mini essay/rant on King's Rock and why I'm very much in favor of banning it. Are there any Pokemon in the current metagame that you believe deserve successful test? No, I do not. I think that you can argue for a couple Pokemon. Volcarona, fair. Heatran, fair. Magnezone, yeah, and I'm going to get to that in a second because I think it might be more Magnet Pull with Parallelism, but neither here nor there. Even Urshifu Rapid and Weavile, I'd hear arguments on. I don't think Toxapex is anywhere near broken right now. I think we're in a metagame state that actually handles it really nicely. Here's to see how that's going to go. But yeah, for now, I don't think any Pokemon are suspect worthy. I think some Pokemon are worth discussing, though, but maybe I'll make another video for that. But for now, no, I don't think I'd suspect or ban any Pokemon right now. Is there anything else not already mentioned you'd like to see the council look into? Yes, and that's where I'm going to put Magnet Pull. So, I thought a lot about this, and I think it's hard to really draw the line between Magnet Pull and Arena Trap or Shadow Tag. Yes, it's a more limited scope, but the fact of the matter is there are integral parts of their metagame. Pokemon like Corviknight, Skarmory, Ferrothorn, etc. Other steel types it does apply to. For example, you could trap a weakened Heatran with Scarf, or you could trap a Melmetal if you get an Iron Defense in the right time, and so on and so forth. In that, you know, of course, the Melmetal has to be chipped too. In that, I think Magnezone has an adverse effect on gameplay. It's too restrictive. Switching is a fundamental part of the game we play, and with Pursuit gone, it feels like Magnet Pull really stands out in arguably the wrong way. I don't know if I'd ban it per se, but I think it deserves, you know, kind of a policy discussion, if you will. I think we should look into it more and more in the metagames we play, and I'm really curious to see if others feel the same way about it. Any other comments, suggestions, or concerns? No, not currently. Did I qualify? Yes, I have played 3 games in World Cup Pokemon, and I think that's it for now. Yeah, I didn't qualify for Smog Tour yet this year, or OLT. I'm trying to cycle, actually, so stay tuned for that. And I didn't play SS and SPL, I played Black-White. No, I think I don't. I've won all top 500 at 250. It's decayed a little bit. Yeah, so that's about it. So that's how I would fill out this survey. How would you guys fill it out? Do you think that anything is worthy of a suspect? If so, let me know, not only in the survey, because I'm reading every response I can, but also in the comment section down below. What do you feel about King's Rock? And are there any other things, you know, be it heavy-duty boots, a topic I personally don't think should be touched on, or teleport future sight topics? Again, I'm a little more on the fence on those, but personally, I don't think it's like super pressing. Let me know down below about all of this and more. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. Have a great rest of your weekend and a good week. All right, talk to you later. Bye.